Hey, podcast listeners, this is Steve. Today's episode, if you like politics or government science, but mostly politics, if you like it, this is a really good episode. We're talking to FMEA's federal lobbyist, a guy named Michael Nolan. Not only is he really smart, really dedicated to the cause, it was a really fun interview, and his knowledge and understanding of public power, his work with the American Public Power Association, it runs deep. He really understands things. And this was one of those podcasts where I never thought about the importance of policy on things like pole attachments and how that matters so much to public power providers. Bottom line here is really good interview. Michael Nolan is a fantastic advocate for the work you do. And listening to what he has to say about what's happening in Washington, what's happening in politics as it directly impacts public power, it's fascinating. And frankly, it's very entertaining as well. Thanks for listening. Greetings, I'm Steve Van Coor, and this is the Florida Public Powercast, a production of the Florida Municipal Electric Association. Each episode, we sit down with leaders and experts from Florida's public power communities to explore issues, innovations, and the people shaping our state's future. When I say we're sitting down with leaders and experts, I got one wrapped up all in one. Both a leader and an expert. Michael Nolan is an FMEA federal what are we going to call him? A lobbyist, a general government consultant. Michael?
Just a political guy.
A political guy. Thank you very much. And a timely podcast. A lot of our podcasts are relatively evergreen because we're talking about large-scale issues, growth, how to deal with growth, how to deal with the regulatory environment. But you're the tip of the spear. You are up in Washington lobbying on behalf of municipal electric authorities around the country. Real quick, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I am all those things. I'm just a political guy, but I am a lobbyist, a Washington representative, and I live and work on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. I'm the eyes and ears for my people, and my people are a niche in the electric utility industry. They're municipal electric utilities and sometimes rural electric co-ops as well. We're joined at the hip on so many issues, and that's generally known as public power, at least on Capitol Hill in the industry. And those are the locally owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit utilities. And I think we wear the white hat. I think we are the good guys, and we keep the lights on and the beer cold oftentimes. So that's what we try to do in our communities.
How does one get into this?
I got into it a long time ago with a special client when I taught high school. I taught high school government studies in Washington, D.C., and I joined my friend's small boutique lobbying firm, and there was a client known as the New York Power Authority. The New York Power Authority started in 1933 under the guise of FDR. When he was governor of New York before he became president, he saw a need to take the hydropower from St. Lawrence River and move it down to furnish all the energy needs of New York State government. And that became not-for-profit, and that grew into several other entities.
So this was to power Albany?
That was Albany and New York City.
Wow.
And he did that. FDR did that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was a big fan of municipal electric and rural electric co-ops because when he went to Warm Springs, Georgia, for example, no energy there, and he took matters into his own hands. And the New York Power Authority became it's some quasi-state agency. So I needed to learn very quickly this thing called energy and this thing called public power. And that's what we call it now. It's not the monopoly term, public power. A public utility, you play monopoly, and you land on you're going to owe me a lot of money. Those are private utilities. 75% of all the country's electricity comes from private investor-owned utilities. They're shareholders. Investors are shareholders. You can buy stock in company PG&E in California, in Texas Utilities, and National Grid in the Northeast. But in our community, you live there.
We're the bondholders. We're the stockholders.
Bondholders. You live
and
there.
We get the
you
profits
control
back.
It.
Yeah.
The revenues. That's right. We don't make profits. We make revenues. It's just like any other city service.
Right.
Water, wastewater. Exactly.
What I love about it is, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, or I'm actually in this regard, I'm preaching to the preachers, is that the money stays in the community, right? And it's all great and fine to have investor-owned utility. It's a wonderful thing. It's important in so many capacities, but when you have a municipal electric authority, the money reverts to the community to build parks, to build roadways, to keep taxes low, et cetera, et cetera. So instead of sending it to those investors who we love and adore because they gave us the resources to build, but now we get to keep it, here, and we get to realize the benefits of it.
Yep.
What kind of, you've been doing this a while.
Been doing it a while in Washington.
What kind of issues are you dealing with right now in Washington?
Lots of issues for the industry, like everybody would, and some specific issues for the municipal electric utility. Let me start at the top. Energy resources. We would not have electricity without natural resources. We're very lucky in this country to still have a great deal of coal and a great deal of natural resources at our fingertips. That's what fracking is all about. We are an exporter of oil on the international scene right now.
I did not know that. We're a net exporter of oil.
We are a net exporter
We produce
of oil.
more oil than we use.
Absolutely right.
I want to repeat that because this is so eye-opening to me, because when I hear all this stuff, we are our own little OPEC. We export more oil than we use.
That's absolutely
true. I did not know
true.
that. Okay.
Because of the new technology, fracking is not new, but we have new technology within the fracking industry. We are now a huge builder and developer and producer of natural gas.
And we're about 20% of our natural gas is sent away.
That's about right.
Okay.
Yeah, we send that over mostly in the form of LNG, liquefied natural gas. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we export that. Congress did that a few years ago.
So,
we allowed that.
Based on
and then the renewables, and nuclear. I would add nuclear still.
Yeah.
Nuclear is back on the table. It's bipartisan. In Washington, at least, in my town, Democrats and Republicans agree that nuclear should be coming back, and that is happening right now. Mostly on the small scale, those are called SMRs, or small modular reactors. The government is getting involved, money is there, and we are just starting that. And on the renewable side, wind and solar, you talk about oil and natural gas and how abundant resources we have. Same with wind and solar. We have those all over the country, and that is being applied to our energy usage now. So those issues are always paramount on Capitol Hill.
Now, that issue, let me stop for a second, because I'm the uninitiated regular citizen out there. I would think that's a good thing, that the trend line in the current administration, the current Congress, is good, that they want more resources.
Everything on the table, we call it.
Okay.
All of the above.
Now, I know with the war going on, that's constraining and that's changing pricing in markets, but we still have enough. We're not, like you're reading, some of these countries are going to planned blackouts, planned rolling blackouts, et cetera. California, they're in the Enron era, right? All over the world right now because of the Strait of Hormuz, but we're not suffering. We're seeing high prices. We're not seeing an absence of fuel.
That's right. So far, that's right. You mentioned blackouts, rolling blackouts. We had recent rolling blackouts in the Northeast, particularly New York, recently because of the heat dome. Everybody suffered, 200 million people, Americans, suffered under the heat dome, especially in the Northeast. 90 degrees in Boston is really hot. Because Boston and New England cannot.
90 days in Fort Lauderdale is a beautiful day.
That's right. 90 in Washington is very different than 90 in Boston. And so New York had for a day rolling blackouts. A lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people didn't cover that. But that was an aberration. And you mentioned the administrations. Right now, we have a new administration, obviously, in town. They're heavily dependent, and they love fossil fuels, less so on the renewable side. But just a little while ago, 18 months ago, under the Biden administration, they were heavily into renewables, and the pendulum swung that way. So you had a huge influx, tax credits designed specifically and devoted specifically for the renewable resources, wind, solar, geothermal, et cetera. That has stopped because of the new sheriff in town through the administration. So this pendulum continues to swing, and these issues are always important to the industry. Those are general 30,000-foot level. For us in the municipal community and sometimes rural electric co-ops, taxes are important because we have you mentioned bonds, we have at our disposal, we're tax exempt. Not tax-free, we're tax exempt. What does that mean? We don't pay federal income tax. Now hold on to your hats. That's not a big deal because we don't make federal income like private corporations do. That's why we don't pay federal income tax. We don't make federal income. Everything we make is revenues that stay in the community. And again, it's just like any other municipal service that we provide. And it happens to be electricity.
That whipsawing from one administration to the other, when you're in the utility business, you don't plan month by month. You don't even plan year by year. You plan decades out. That whipsawing,
That's right.
Our prior guest said, what we want more than anything else is regulatory stability. And what we wish is, please just stop changing because we're trying to plan way out into the future. But listen,
we're
it's
still
America.
saying it. It's funny. We're still saying it. We say it every month, every week, every day. We want regulatory certainty for the industry, a highly regulated industry to begin with. But we manage somehow to keep the lights on. And these issues, FEMA is a big issue. We'll talk about FEMA, Federal Energy Management, Federal Emergency Management
The other
Agency is, well, just a four-letter word that starts with F, some people would say. FEMA is tough. FEMA is broken. FEMA
Michael, you got to be
needs
careful about that
fixed.
because FMEA also starts with F and it's a four-letter word.
Yes, just transposed the M. So FEMA is important. Taxes are important. Pole attachments is a broadband term.
Well, let's talk about FEMA reform because
Okay.
I know our own Kevin Guthrie was part of a reform committee that made a bunch of recommendations. We're putting this program in place called FROC, which is phenomenal from what I understand. Everybody loves it. Helps us get our reimbursements quicker and more of them. What are you seeing with FEMA reform right now?
On the national scale, FEMA is a embattled agency, and when administrations change, they get to change the rules. And then when this new administration came to town, they were not very friendly to FEMA. They didn't like FEMA a whole lot. They thought FEMA was politicized, and they wanted to cut drastically back on FEMA federal reimbursements, less federal, more state authority, less money, less staffing, close FEMA regional offices. That was 18 months ago. Those were scary days just a year ago. That tune has changed over the course of a year. And all those things I just mentioned, including eliminating the FEMA agency itself, that's not going to happen. That's a win.
Yeah, because I heard mixed reviews of that, which was one, go back to what FEMA is, which is a financial reimbursement system, but they have expanded their role with housing and all that other kind of stuff.
They have.
But they were going to pull that way back,
That's
like you
right.
said, disband it and just make
Get
it a
back to
financial.
its core mission.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's what we care about, federal reimbursements and natural disasters declaration. And we, again, keep the lights on. That's emergency repairs and restoration work. And then hardening of your system, hazard mitigation helps for that as well. But FEMA is in trouble. It's an embattled agency. It's bureaucratic. It has lost several resources because of the cutbacks. But we now know, unlike a year and a half ago, that FEMA will not be eliminated. We believe in FEMA reform, not elimination. And Congress has worked on that. You mentioned the FEMA Review Council. Through executive order, President Trump and the White House created an executive order and developed a thing called the FEMA Review Council.
Yeah.
It's a member across the country of 19 folks. 3 Floridians were on that, including Kevin Guthrie, as you know. And they finally came out with their final report issued in May, made 10 major recommendations. 5 of those require congressional action. 5 of those are left to the executive branch.
If all 10 were enacted, what does FEMA look like after this?
Very different. Very different.
Very
And
different. Better? Very different.
Mixed bag.
Okay.
Mixed bag for utilities and individual assistance and small communities across the country that depend on FEMA. They call it state and local entities, state and tribal entities and towns and cities and provinces and parishes. Very different mixed bag based on the final report. Let me tell you the good news. Congress has gotten involved, and we have a very good FEMA reform package in the House of Representatives The T&I Committee, Transportation Infrastructure, is the main committee of jurisdiction. They put together a very nice bipartisan package of FEMA reform priorities, including faster reimbursements, which you mentioned, clarifying rules and regulations for FEMA, hazard mitigation program is reformed, beefing up resources, not eliminating them, beefing up regional offices, not cutting them. Congress has done very good over the last year.
I'm really glad to
put
hear
together
that. I'm really glad to
very
hear that.
good bipartisan work. Nobody's talking about it because we know Washington's a mess. Nobody knows this because we know Washington is crazy and full of chaos every day. But on FEMA, Congress has gotten its act together, and we are ready for the House to pass this package. The Senate, unfortunately, is a little slower. They need to step up a little bit and pick up the FEMA ball.
Will, not to ask you to take out the crystal ball, but do you think this will get done through the Senate before the change of midterms?
Probably not.
Probably
based
not.
on the calendar alone, not based on lack of will, not based on lack of want. They want to do this. They desire to do this. They need to do this. The legislative calendar is really tight.
And really packed.
Really packed already with waning days and weeks in the 119th Congress. That's all before the end of the September marks the end of the fiscal year. We won't pass 12 appropriations bill. The Senate has passed not a single one. We will pass what we call a CR, or a continuing resolution, just to keep operations flowing. Then October, they're out for all of the midterm elections. October, Congress is not in. They come back after the midterm elections.
It's
on
crazy.
November
We're taping
3rd.
this in July, and you're basically telling me the year's over.
That is a
In Washington
that is a
timeline.
tough but big dose of reality. I can tell you so many X number of days in the legislative month and before September. There'll be a lame duck session, as there always is. They're common, and we will get some things done in a lame duck session based on midterms and otherwise. But I'm optimistic that we get a House package. Not very optimistic we get a Senate
You said
package.
there were 10 recommendations, 5 of which must go through Congress.
Yep.
And it sounds to me like what Congress is doing is taking those charges and going in the right
Congress
right
worked
direction.
closely, and I know for a fact, I've been working with the committee, they work closely with the White House on that FEMA Review Council, so they're in cahoots on many of those.
Good.
They're in many of those
So
recommendations.
what looked like
Not
a
all,
potential
but on many
disaster.
of them.
Now,
That's
the other
right.
5 through executive order?
You can do executive order and leave it up to the executive branch. That's right, in certain declarations.
Are
Because
the 5 good or bad or mixed?
It's a mixed bag, but the president has a great deal of authority when it comes to FEMA. And Congress has given a great deal of authority over the years to FEMA. That is all being clarified by this new legislative package. And again, bipartisan. We had a tremendous vote in that Transportation Committee, 57-3. 57-3. That doesn't happen any day in Congress. And that's what bipartisan
Whenever I
really
hear 57-3, my first reaction is, who are the 3 idiots, right?
means. They had a couple of questions and concerns, but we've talked to them about it.
I want to shift gears. So FEMA reform one, thank you. That was really excellent. Kevin was more optimistic than you were, by the way. But also,
I'm
I
a
think,
cynical optimist.
well, he and his perspective was interesting in that his expectation was, oh my gosh, this may be going away. And I'm curious if other states are putting in place what FROC is, because he thinks that's going to become the national standard at some point.
Yeah, it's a good model for Florida, and I know people are thinking about it. I know he does a very good job on Florida's behalf. And Florida is, you probably know this from Kevin Guthrie himself, Florida is often lauded and applauded in their FEMA-related efforts.
When we get a new governor, I'm going to call. And actually, Byron Donalds, who looks like the front runner right now, is going to be on my TV show, and I'm going to beg him. I only have one request, Mr. Donalds. I don't care about anything else. Please keep Kevin Guthrie. Everything else you want to do, I don't care about.
Well, it's a little early for that, but you said crystal ball, and the Donalds team would love for you to call him the next governor, but every's
I'll
running
tell the same
right
thing
now.
to David Jolly, too.
David Jolly.
Because, well, you know what? He transcends party politics. I know he got involved with the alligator, but he's done so much. I go back a long way with Jared Moskowitz when Jared was the EM secretary. And Jared would be the first and last person to tell you his success was a direct result of Kevin Guthrie.
I understand. He's said the same thing to me.
Yeah.
And I don't need to remind...
And Jared, I say this with absolute
Jared's
love.
very smart on this stuff.
Oh, he's wicked smart.
Very wicked smart.
But
That's my language.
he's also
You're right.
very... he's quick to tell you when he's doing a good job, as he should, but he was so humble about it. He goes, look, man, I know I did a good job. I understood it because he came from Ashbridge. He said, I understood it, was able to make things happen. It was a crisis time with COVID and everything. But without Kevin, we would have never been able to execute the things we needed to execute. So what a great team. I wonder how influential, sidebar, how influential was Jared? Was he on that committee? Was he one of the 57?
He's not on that committee, but he is very influential. He's very close to Byron Donalds, as you know.
Yeah.
They have a little piece of legislation, bipartisan, that has made the rounds. Did not make it in this bill because of congressional jurisdiction. It's a simple bill that would do one thing: take FEMA away from DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. A lot of people, me included, believe that DHS just mucks up. It's more bureaucratic. It's another layer. We don't need it part of DHS, Homeland Security. We want it to be its own federal, again, independent regulatory agency. Remove it from DHS. That's a winning argument, but not totally because of congressional jurisdictional matters, so that is not in the bill, but they work very well. I'll tell you something else about Jared Moskowitz and how smart he is. He's very close to the White House. I know they're very different animals, the president and Jared Moskowitz, but the congressman is close to the White House on FEMA-related matters. They know each other well. They talk to each other about these matters, and that's a good thing. I don't have to tell anyone in Florida how important FEMA is to Florida, and the entire congressional delegation, they know what FEMA is, they know how important it is, and they've worked very well together on that.
Jared Moskowitz, in that regard, may be the most important member of Congress we've had in many, many years because
he was in the job.
He was in the job, and he's done unfortunately, a dear friend of mine was a member of Congress, and he wrote a book called Dead Center, and it was about the loss of the middle. And he got reapportioned out because he didn't do everything Nancy Pelosi wanted him to. And I'm afraid for Jared. I mean, I think he's going to win re-election, but he's in a tough battle. He got reapportioned a little bit.
He did. This is the famous
but he's
Florida redistricting map.
Right? He's bipartisan, and that no longer suits
America. He will
America.
work with anyone and talk with anyone.
Yeah.
That's unusual in this day and age in Congress. We're blowing his
even with
horn.
his bad taste in shoes.
And maybe suits, but I like the guy. Let me toot the horn of a couple of other Floridians who are important on Capitol Hill. Mr. Webster, Daniel Webster, is a longstanding member, very famous here in Tallahassee.
One of my favorites.
Start legislature, but a great congressman, very keen on FEMA, and an architect and a main sponsor of this FEMA reform package. Mr. Webster is.
And he's leaving.
And guess what? He's leaving. Dr. Dunn, Neil Dunn out in the Panhandle. Also leaving. Keen on FEMA. Hammered in his district more than any other congressional district in the country. We've worked very closely with him. He knows FEMA very well, wants this package passed. He's been totally instrumental in putting this package together, and we're losing him.
Yeah.
That's tough. I would name Darren Soto as a very helpful advocate.
I'm glad to hear that.
Very helpful. He's got a great district, again, redistricted, but he's running for re-election, as you know. He's so important. He's on top of the FEMA issue, and he's been terrific. Now, whether he returns, we'll see.
We got to go back to Dan Webster for a second. Truly a transformative Speaker of the Florida House. Put rules in place that are still in there today about how they conduct their business, and he will be sorely missed. I was very close to him and very close to the minority leader at the time, Lois Frankel.
Oh.
And you can call Lois today and ask her, who was the best speaker you ever worked under? And she'll tell you Dan Webster, because he said he respected the opposition. He gave us an opportunity. So, Dan, I love you. And I remember when I heard he was retiring, I'm like, darn, I'm going to miss that guy because he's such an honorable person. And we do have some good ones up there. But, yeah, he's leaving.
I'm going to echo your sentiment on Lois Frankel. Let me tell you about Congresswoman Lois Frankel. and how important to FEMA she is. Why is she? I call her the FEMA queen to her face, and she always laughs and smiles about that. But when she was mayor of Palm Beach and storms hit, that's when you suddenly realize how important FEMA is. And she was on FEMA for years, came to Congress, wrote her own bill. It's about clawbacks. It's about de-obligations, a arcane federal bureaucratic budget rule where FEMA has taken your money that they gave you as federal reimbursements years later. You know what? You know that $15 million that we gave you 5 years ago? We want some of that back. That's outrageous. That's how broken FEMA is, but she made a piece of legislation and passed it into public law to correct that. That's how good she is.
I'm so glad to hear that. I love Lois. She was a member of one of my boards in 1990. We connected because we're both from Long Island, and I'm glad to hear that. It's kind of cool to hear, because I would have never known that about Lois.
A lot of people don't, but she's terrific.
That's really, really cool to hear. I want to talk about an issue. When we talked about it in the pre-conversation, and I said these two words, your eyes lit up and your body, because I thought it was a nothing issue. Pole attachments.
This is tough. This is a tough issue for us.
It's so easy to understand, too, by the way.
It's not going well, but here it is in a nutshell. A pole attachment, 2 words. Poles mean poles, the telephone poles, wires. Everybody's seen them. Everybody knows what they are. Telecommunications. We use poles in the industry,
utility
of course.
Poles, dude.
Utility poles are we don't have electricity without utility poles.
Right.
So utility poles, that's our infrastructure. That's what our public power and rural electric co-op utilities across Florida and across the country.
You bought it, you cited it, you permitted
They're
it, you put it
theirs.
in, you installed it,
They're
you're
in charge of
liable for it.
reliability, safety, and liability, reliability and safety. So what's the attachment part? Typically, other companies, non-electric utility companies, are allowed to attach something to your poles. Why is this? For communication purposes, TV, telephone, and broadband. And the new thing, the big thing, of course, is 3G, 4G, now 5G broadband telecommunication services. We get it. These are typically done by large telecom companies all over the country and here in Florida. They're tough. They're tough cookies sometimes. They're tough customers. They don't own the utility poles. We do. They're not in charge of liability or reliability. We are. They don't think about safety. We have to. These attachments they pay a fee. In the old days, we negotiate, sit at a table. It's a minimal fee or nominal fee. That doesn't happen much anymore. They don't really care about the formula. They just want to attach anything, anywhere, at any time, and don't get in their way.
Well, wait a second. I got to ask, because this is so outrageous to me, and I'm sorry, but you have a power pole, a utility pole, and if it's one of the old wooden ones, which I know they're being replaced slowly, but it's going to be 50 years before they're fully replaced. And I'm a lineman. There's a storm. A tree falls and takes out a power line, and a transformer is still alive. It's a dangerous situation. I've got to climb up there. It's still raining. It's still windy. I got to climb around somebody else's 5G box?
Absolutely. Yes. You can call them and say, come fix your own gear, but that takes a long time. We don't have that time. We don't have that luxury. We got to put the pole up.
Yeah, try saying to a consumer,
totally right.
Sorry, ma'am, we're not going to be able to return your electricity to service. I know it's 100 degrees out.
A consumer, a customer, a ratepayer, they want their power on now.
Now.
That's right.
And so you've got to work around these things that they affix to the pole. Now, you're required to put it on the pole. You know, they passed a law like this in Florida several years ago about the 5G and placement, where they said you can only charge, I think it was $250. Mm-hmm. And we're like, well, wait a second.
That's the nominal fee. That's right.
You're cost shifting to taxpayers. Now, yes,
yep.
We all want 5G. It's great, but you're cost shifting to taxpayers. It's a hidden cost. They get to charge less or whatever because taxpayers are footing the bill to put that siding in. It's the same thing on these poles. Yes. So what is the issue?
Here's the issue. We don't have an issue with the attachments themselves or even the companies because we've gotten along for years and years. But they go to state capitals and they write state legislation to promote their own interest, as they should. Sometimes it's not good for us. We have to beat that back and find the middle ground. When that doesn't work out to their liking, they come to Congress and write federal legislation, as they did last Congress and the Congress before that, and even this Congress, the 119th Congress. That was not to our liking. That pinged us a little bit. It damaged the outlook for federal law when it comes to these poles and pole attachments for the municipal electric utilities. We beat that back. But that's not good enough for them. They go to the federal regulatory agencies, in this case, FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and try to rewrite the long-standing, decades-long rules and regulations for pole attachments. And they're doing that right now as we speak.
How does it currently work? You have a pole.
Yep.
I have a flux capacitor I want to put on that pole.
Yep. You're able to do that. You and I should talk. We meet. And you pay a nominal fee, and that should be copacetic. We should make that happen.
And
you want to do it 1,000 ways.
Put it over here facing east. Don't face it here because the lineman's got to get up. Don't put it on these poles. Put it on those poles.
And we usually work well together. And in the past, we have worked well together. But when things don't go your way, you can go to members of Congress and say, hey, I'd like to get in your neighborhood tomorrow and deliver 5G to all your constituents. Hey, that sounds great. What do you need? We need them to get out of their way. Them is us. And they call us barriers to entry and obstacles to their mission, which is not true. We've met, we've talked for decades, we've done it very well, we've worked well together. There's a new day with large telecom companies. And approaching FCC is
I see
is
this a lot in lobbying and legislation where you might have 67 different counties. They negotiate 66 different contracts. But then there's a group in Washington or in Tallahassee that says, gee, A, I got to justify my existence, so I got to go do something. B, I make a bigger battle of it than it sounds. I find that one example that outrages everybody, and then we change the law, and it affects the other 66.
That's right.
It sounds like this is one of those things that's happening.
We're talking about the large, we're not talking about mom and pop small vendors in our communities. We have no problem with that. But on the national scale, they have all the resources in the world. We don't. We're the little guys. We're communities. And they have a lot of money on their hands and a lot of time, and they're significant in lobbying Congress.
If they were to wave a magic wand, what would the law look like for them?
Everything in their favor.
Name 3 things that would be. No charge to put something on their pole?
We would just cater to their whims. I mean, you could have any pole you wanted on our poles. Well, what would happen to liability and reliability in our communities? We push back. Equal pressure on both sides keeps you standing up.
Who installs the device on the pole? Do you or do they?
They do.
So let me just look at the liability issue for a second. So they install a device on the pole. A storm comes. That device lands on somebody's car. Joint and several liability kicks in, right? You're liable and they're liable.
Yeah, I'm getting a little out of my field from the halls of Congress, but essentially we're liable for our equipment. They're supposed to be liable for theirs.
Yeah, but somebody could say your pole wasn't proper, your pole fell down, so even though you're 10%
it happens all the time.
Okay.
Happens all the time, and we have to discuss that in the community.
And your self-insurance goes up because they're putting stuff on your pole.
Sure, and we need to get out there tomorrow, and they don't always get out there tomorrow.
It is an interesting thing.
It's a tough political conundrum because it's big versus small. I'm not saying it's David versus Goliath, but sometimes it feels that way. We beat back legislation. We think in a fair fight, nothing's fair. I mean, we're small, and we don't have the resources.
Michael, David won.
David won. And you go to the FCC, and the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, they're serious folks right now. And again, a new sheriff is in town. And they're going to be local, they're national, it's notice of proposed rulemaking. That's a public comment period. We will make our comments and push back a little bit and see where we go. And that will go right before the FCC itself.
What other issues do you have before the FCC?
That's the big one right now. Broadband spectrum is always an issue. First responders, we rely on spectrum. And this administration and others want to sell off chunks of the spectrum at the time to private companies and purveyors, we push back a little bit, and we rely on not only our industry, but first responders. Emergency spectrum, don't touch that. We need that. Everybody needs that. So that's sometimes contentious at the FCC.
What are you looking forward to at the midterms? It's going to impact a lot of things.
You know, it's all about the midterms in Washington right now. Conventional wisdom, traditionally, the ebbs and flows. The Democrats need just a few seats to flip the House. That seems to be the way it's going right now. Republicans are running very scared. Democrats have a lot of issues on their hands to contend with. The Senate, again, small, tight margins, 53-47 essentially. But that means 4 seats flipped in the Democrats' way flips the Senate. That's a math problem. We get that. 4 seats is a lot. You can win 1 or 2. But I say there's a map problem, MAP. The map problem doesn't really work in the Democrats' favor. Can they win in North Carolina? Maybe. Alaska, Iowa, Maine. Maine is tough
Maine
these
is
days.
above the fold right now.
Susan Collins, I lost the bet 6 years ago. Thought Susan Collins would finally be knocked off. She started she was a key staffer on in the Senate.
Right now, she's the luckiest person in Congress, right?
There
You're
you
like,
go.
well, they could replace her with platinum with somebody else, but it's very, very interesting.
That's right.
Well, Michael Nolan, I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this. This has been very enlightening
That was
and
fun.
enjoyable.
My pleasure.
It was a lot of fun for me, too. I appreciate it. Well, folks, this is Steve Van Coor, and you've been listening to the Florida Public Powercast, brought to you by the Florida Municipal Electric Association, your statewide voice for public power. Thanks for joining us.